I need to tell you about what happened. It's a mess. It started with a talk with my wife, Mia. We've been married 11 years, right? 11 incredible years, I thought. Anyway, this conversation, it ended with her in tears. And, man, it just brought back this flood of memories. This awful feeling from 3 years ago when I nearly lost my job. Back then, Mia, yeah, she goes by Mia or sometimes just S, she was so scared I'd miss our anniversary. She practically ordered me to drop everything and come home. Fast forward to today, and guess what? Now she's the one who wasn't going to be there for our anniversary. And you know what's crazy? I didn't say a word to try and change her mind this time. Even with all this happening, the last 12 years have honestly been the happiest of my life. I remember meeting Mia like it was yesterday. She was 24, just starting out in sales. She came to our design studio trying to get us to advertise in these glossy, fancy magazines. Problem was back then we couldn't afford it. But in that room full of people, I just couldn't take my eyes off her. This enchanting woman with dark hair, she just stood out. After she finished her pitch, I cornered my partner, David, and he, bless his heart, helped me distract her long enough to ask her out. After our first date, she admitted she knew all along we couldn't pay for her services. Even knowing that, I was already falling hard, deeply in love. Our relationship moved pretty quickly after that. 6 months of dating, then she moved in. For another 6 months while she switched from her sort of freelance nomadic sales gig to a steady office job. 4 months after she moved in, we tied the knot. Just like that, husband and wife. And every single day since then, even until recently, I honestly felt like the luckiest guy on the planet because I somehow convinced her to marry me. So, here I was, anniversary coming up, knowing she wouldn't be here, and this whole heavy feeling hanging over everything. With this sense of urgency, I just had to call my boss again. I've been with the company since the very beginning when David first started it. Our little team, just 4 designers back then, we did amazing things, really cutting down production time, on projects across different fields. "David, I know you're there, please answer," I mumbled into the phone. Finally, I heard his voice on the other end. "Mark, I'm really swamped right now, you know," he replied, sounding harried. I decided to keep it short. "Look, I'm heading out. Right now, won't be back until Monday." He paused. "Leaving? Where are you going?" "I'm going to celebrate my anniversary with my wife," I told him. "I'll be back Monday." "All right, well, have a good trip. Don't forget to knock before entering," he quipped. I chuckled. Even stressed, David could always make me laugh. "You always manage to do that," I said. "Yeah, I hear that a lot," he responded. "Not from the people who really know you," I added apologetically. "Listen, I'm sorry, but ever since they brought this guy James into Mia's department, there's just been this tension at home. Maybe a break, a trip, will help things." I was really hoping it would. "Yeah, well, it certainly won't hurt," he said. "Just do me a favor, when you're off on your adventure, remember me." He had that familiar grin in his voice. "Deal. See you Monday," I said. I didn't hang up right away, though. I asked Maria, Craig's secretary, for a huge favor. Maria knows how to make things happen. I needed a plane ticket, and fast. After talking to her, I rushed home to pack. I was just shoving stuff into my suitcase when the phone rang. "You have 45 minutes to get to the airport for security check," Maria's voice said, calm and efficient. "The ticket's waiting at the counter under your name." She'd managed to get me a return flight for Sunday afternoon at 1:30 p.m. Unfortunately, there were no rooms left at Mia's hotel, the Grand Vista, so she booked me 1-2 blocks away at the City Stay Inn. "Have a safe trip. See you Monday," she finished. Hearing that, I panicked slightly. 45 minutes. I bolted for the bathroom, grabbed my shaving kit, threw it in the bag, did a quick sweep of the room, even turned off the coffee maker, which is totally unlike me when I'm in a rush, and then I was flying out the door and into the car. Over the 15 years I've lived here, I found a bunch of shortcuts, little tricks to shave time off the drive. Even speeding, I made it to the airport with time to spare. Registration, security, finally boarding. Once I was settled in my seat, I jammed on my headphones and put on some music. I hate flying, always have, and music helps me zone out, stay calm. About 3 hours into the flight, I was jolted awake by a gentle tap on my shoulder. I'd fallen asleep, which wasn't surprising. I hadn't been sleeping well lately. Some of it was definitely work stress, but a lot of it, well, Mia and I had been going through a rough patch for months now, more than 2 months actually. She'd been distant, really distant, not letting me get close. It all started when she told me about this colleague from another department getting a promotion and basically taking over her role. She was determined to prove them wrong, prove her worth. For the first couple of weeks, she came home exhausted, just talking non-stop about strategies to outshine Mr. James Miller. But then, gradually, that fire seemed to die down. After another couple of weeks, she mentioned they'd actually started working together, cooperating. I started getting anxious as their joint project, winning this big client, got closer. Thoughts, ugly thoughts about a possible romantic relationship between them started creeping in. But Kate, Mia always reassured me, said it was just work. Taking my bag out of the overhead compartment, my mind was racing. How could I invite Mia to dinner quietly without giving away the surprise? I needed a plan. After grabbing a taxi from the airport, I struck up a conversation with the driver. Just casual chat, you know. He happened to mention this charming, dimly lit restaurant situated right between the Grand Vista and my place, the City Stay Inn. Sounds intriguing, I said, my interest piqued. It was exactly the kind of place I'd pictured for surprising her. After checking into my hotel, I took a quick shower, threw on some fresh clothes and rushed back out. I wanted to catch Mia before she headed out for dinner. Glancing at the clock in the lobby, it was almost 5:30 p.m. I stepped outside and looked up and down the street. It was busy, bustling. I figured I could probably walk there faster than finding another taxi, so I followed the directions the receptionist gave me. The walk was easy enough, and I made a point of remembering that charming restaurant the taxi driver had mentioned. It turned out to be just a few steps away from her hotel. When I got out of the first taxi, by the way, I gave the driver a pretty generous tip. I was feeling hopeful, I guess. At about 5:50 p.m., I walked into the lobby of the Grand Vista and stood in line at one of the reception desks. I caught the eye of a woman working there. She gave me a warm smile and motioned for me to come forward. "Hello," I said, trying to sound calm and polite. "My name is Mark Johnson. I was wondering if my wife, Mia Johnson, is in her room right now. If she is, I'd really appreciate a chance to talk to her." "Mia Johnson, you said?" She double-checked, glancing at her computer. She took a moment to look through her notes. "Yes, she is a guest here. Give me just a minute to check if she's in her room." She dialed the room number. After a few moments, she turned back to me, a slight frown on her face. "I'm sorry, sir. There was no answer. Would you like to leave a message?" "Not right now," I replied, trying to hide the disappointment in my voice. I was hoping to surprise her. It's our anniversary tomorrow, you see. I'd be really grateful if you didn't mention our conversation. I tried to sound hopeful, pleading. "No problem at all, sir, I assure you," she said reassuringly. I didn't quite catch everything she said after that. Just something about wishing me a wonderful day tomorrow. "Thanks," I said. "I think I'll try heading over to a restaurant nearby. Maybe luck will be on my side." "Good night," she said as I turned away. I headed towards the far end of the lobby, spotting a noisy open area that seemed to be a restaurant or lounge attached. It was packed with people, working, serving, sitting, eating, talking. It was really crowded, and I knew the chances of spotting her in that chaos were slim. Then I noticed a restroom area located off to one side, further back. I scanned the entire room, left and right, searching desperately for any sign of her. Despite looking everywhere, she was nowhere to be seen. After using the restroom, I settled near the entrance to the corridor leading out, and once again, I scanned the room. It felt pointless. Finding one person in this crowd seemed almost impossible. But then I heard it, faintly, but unmistakable, her laugh. That particular sound, I knew it anywhere. My eyes followed the direction, but tall booth seating blocked my view, allowing only glimpses of faces, men and women with them. I didn't want to just walk up to a table blindly and make a scene if it wasn't her, or if she was with people I didn't want to see me. So I backed up a little and slowly started making my way along the row of booths, looking into each one as discreetly as possible, one by one. I got to the third booth from where I was standing near the corridor, and there, in that very booth, I saw her. She was sitting there, totally engrossed in conversation with a man I didn't recognize at first glance. She looked radiant, absolutely glowing, wearing this elegant dress she always wore for special evenings, for dancing. Their interaction seemed so relaxed, so natural, like they were completely comfortable in each other's company. My stomach churned. What was really going on between them? It seemed way more intimate than just a casual dinner with a colleague. My heart started hammering in my chest. He leaned closer to her, and I instinctively grabbed the door frame, needing something to hold on to. As she bent down, their lips met. A kiss right there in that crowded restaurant. A tender kiss full of I didn't know what. Mixed emotions exploded inside me. I couldn't stand there anymore. I let go of the door frame and walked towards the center of the hall, sinking into one of the padded chairs with a high backrest. Time seemed to blur. I just sat there, my eyes locked on their table, unable to look away. Suddenly I heard her laughter again, closer this time, drawing my attention. I turned my head. She was walking right past me, hand in hand with him. Both hands, actually, clutching his tightly with both of hers. Their closeness, the way they were together, the general happy noise around them. It was unbearable, but I was morbidly curious. They strolled past, maybe 15 feet away. Even though they were talking, all I could focus on was the expression on her face as she looked up at him. It was this adoring look, completely enamored. I hadn't seen her look at me like that in a long, long time. At that moment, my breath caught in my throat. I was speechless. I stood up and headed for the exit. My face must have given everything away. The shock, the hurt, the absolute disbelief. Fueled by a sudden surge of determination, I walked straight out onto the sidewalk. I couldn't take my eyes off them. She was clinging to his arm, leaning into him affectionately. I watched as they walked down the street, eventually turning a corner and disappearing into a restaurant I had noticed earlier. That charming, dimly lit one the taxi driver had mentioned. Snapping out of my trance, I hurried towards the restaurant door. Then suddenly I became aware of my surroundings again. I forced myself to slow down, giving them time to get inside and settle in. I came to a halt, taking a few deep, shaky breaths, trying desperately to regain some composure. There was definitely meaning in the expressions I'd seen, in their touch, in the way she looked at him. But I wanted more. Even though I didn't fully understand what more meant in that moment, summoning whatever resolve I had left, I pushed open the door and cautiously entered the restaurant, staying close to the wall near the entrance. It was unattended. I stood there patiently, waiting for my eyes to adjust to the dimmer light inside, scanning the room. Finally, my gaze landed on them, sitting at a small table meant for two, all the way at the far end. I made my way towards them, sticking close to the walls, my hands almost touching them as I went. I sat down at a small table not far from theirs. A waitress appeared promptly behind me. "What can I get for you, honey? What'll it be?" she asked cheerfully. "Double scotch on the rocks," I replied, my voice probably sounding rougher than I intended. Their voices carried in the quiet corner. I could overhear them clearly. "Our meeting tomorrow isn't until 10, he said to Mia, his voice low and intimate. "So we can celebrate late into the night." "Good," she replied, smiling. "I'm glad you didn't let him manipulate you into going home. We wouldn't miss our, let's see, 3rd month anniversary for anything." "Can't believe it's already 3 months, she exclaimed. "Could have been longer," he remarked, a hint of a smirk in his voice. "If only you had accepted my offer at the end of my first week at work," she laughed, a light, happy sound that cut me to the core. "I know. I had to play the innocent girl with you, though, considering I'm supposedly married." She shook her head, seemingly in disbelief, recounting the moment he'd approached her, apparently in front of a colleague named Carol, and asked her out, fully aware she was married. "Carol actually told me that you liked me," he mentioned. "See," Mia said, turning back to him. "We should do something nice for her. She played a significant role in bringing us together." Just then, the waitress arrived with their drinks. She served them quickly and walked away. They raised their glasses. "To us," he said, "to an incredible 3 months, and countless more to come," she replied cheerfully. Their glasses clinked together. "I'll do whatever it takes," he said. "There will be many more," she echoed. The waitress placed my drink in front of me. "Here you go, honey. Is that all?" I handed her a $20 bill. "Thank you, ma'am." Then I shifted my attention back to their table. They glanced up briefly, but as strangers, my presence seemed completely insignificant to them. Mia, noticing his gaze had drifted, turned and looked right at me. My heart froze for a second. "You know," I said, my voice cutting through the restaurant noise, "a guy should always carry a camera with him for moments like these." Her expression, it was priceless, just absolute shock. Her lips were moving silently, trying to form words. "Wow, 3 months, that's a special anniversary, isn't it?" I still remember mine, but after 11 years, it starts to lose its novelty, I guess. Watching them both, the scene unfolding before me, I found myself speaking again. "Yeah, let's celebrate 3 months. It's a symbol of passion and prosperity, right?" My voice was sarcastic, dripping with it. "Well, a lovely couple like you definitely deserves a gift. So here," I said, tossing my wedding ring, towards their table, towards Mia. It landed with a small clink. "Here's my offer. And here's a surprise." "Paul, James," interrupted, shouting loudly. Realizing that staying there any longer would just lead to an even bigger disaster, I turned to Mia, who was trying to calm James down. "Tell him how lucky he is he wasn't in my house right now," I said, my voice hard. "Please contact me and let me know where you'd like to receive your belongings. If you're smart, you'll avoid coming to my place." I looked at James, who looked ready to lunge across the table. "Applying ice to your nose might reduce the discomfort," I stated, just to twist the knife a little. Then I turned and walked out. Just like that, leaving the restaurant, leaving them, leaving the ring on the floor, or the table, or wherever it landed. I walked briskly back to the hotel. It was unlikely Mia knew my current address there, and given how I'd just acted towards her, well, her friend, it seemed unlikely she'd follow me there either. To put more distance between us, and quickly, I hurried into the City Stay Inn lobby and approached the front desk. "Excuse me," I said politely, trying to sound normal. "Do you happen to have the contact numbers for any airlines? I urgently need to book a plane ticket." The employee looked up. "Certainly, sir. May I inquire about your preferred airline as well as your desired departure time and destination?" After giving her all the necessary information, any flight, out anywhere as long as it was soon, she assured me she would call my room with the details. Back in the room, I started pacing. Back and forth. How could this have happened? How? Then a thought struck me. Maybe Mia had missed her true calling in life. Her performance over the past months, it was Oscar-worthy. My frustration just kept mounting. I couldn't stay in that room, not alone with my thoughts. Grabbing my bag hastily, I practically ran down the stairs to the lobby. When I reached the front desk again, the receptionist who had helped me earlier had just finished a phone call. She motioned for me to approach. "Sir, if you leave now, you might just make the last flight today," she told me. "Registration closes in 30 minutes. If you miss it, the next flight isn't for another 3 hours." "Thanks," I said already. Halfway out the door, desperately hoping the taxi drivers outside were quick, I signed the cash receipt she held out. "I'm sorry you have to cut your visit short," she said, smiling warmly. "Please stay with us next time." As I headed for the exit, a rush of unforgettable memories hit me. The happy ones, the sad ones, the ones that now felt tainted. Rushing out of the lobby, I spotted a taxi in the nearby parking lot and practically dove in. "I bet you $100 you can get me to the airport in under 30 minutes, I said, as I slammed the door shut. The driver grinned in the rearview mirror. "You got it, boss." He turned out to be a pro. We got to the airport in just 20 minutes. I paid the meter fare, added a generous $200 tip, thanked him profusely, and bolted for the entrance. Reflecting on it later, there was no need to rush quite so much. I had a few minutes to spare after clearing security. I waited impatiently for the boarding announcement. Unlike the flight coming here, I didn't need music to distract me this time. There were plenty of distractions. The people around me, the buzzing terminal, and my own chaotic thoughts. A funny thought popped into my head suddenly, and I had to suppress a laugh. I remembered Mia's mother, Martha. She never really liked me, Martha. She seemed to have her husband, Robert, wrapped around her little finger, but she treated him poorly, almost like he didn't matter. I couldn't stand her behavior, and she knew it. One day, she even flat out accused me of eventually cheating on Mia, claiming she'd seen me glancing at other women when we were together. Martha always knew how to push my buttons. Throughout the entire flight home, doubts gnawed at me, circling like vultures. How could this have happened? Was I blind? I pulled out the photo I always carried with me, one of Mia and me, and studied it intently. The person standing next to me in the photo suddenly felt like a stranger. I glanced around to make sure no one was watching, then returned my gaze to the picture. In the picture, I was standing right next to Mia, but what caught my attention wasn't me. It was the way she was gazing into his eyes. Even in that old photo, looking back, I saw it differently now. It made me doubt everything. You know, men aren't usually known for having amazing memories, but I considered myself an exception. Like most women, Mia often tested my memory, asking, "Do you remember this? Or do you remember that?" And unfortunately for her, I remembered everything. Every conversation, every plan we made, every little secret we whispered in the dark. Sitting there now, I couldn't help but wonder if I hadn't noticed this affair unfolding for 2, maybe 3 months. What else had I missed? He had shown interest in her from his first week at the office, but she claimed she'd rejected him then to maintain appearances because she was married. The thought of them being together all this time, while she was still sharing my life, it was sickening. I started formulating a plan, a 2-part plan. First, I'd go home, pack up all her stuff, and take it to her mother's place. Of course, Martha, the old woman, would find a way to blame me, wouldn't she? But the truth was what I saw, period. Second, well, I hadn't quite figured out the second part yet. When we arrived at the airport, I felt like my entire family life was unraveling. Right there on the tarmac. I headed straight to my car and joined the exit queue. The drive home felt like a blur. I couldn't remember much of the drive itself, just being on autopilot. Nevertheless, I reached my destination. How long it took, I couldn't tell you. Honestly, it didn't matter. Stepping into the dimly lit house, I was hit by an eerie sense of unfamiliarity. This place, my home, felt strange. The thought that I had to get used to this sight, an empty house, as the new normal consumed me. After dropping my travel bag just inside the door, I headed for the kitchen. On the way, I instinctively turned on the answering machine. A voice, pleading, came through the speaker. "Dan, Mark, please don't do anything rash. I'm heading home. Now to talk, please wait until I get there." It was Mia. She sounded pained. Her voice conveyed so much emotion. I believed in that moment that a cheater deserved punishment. But I just couldn't stand hearing it, especially not in that voice, pretending to be hurt. So I reacted impulsively. I slammed my fist down on the counter. My actions might have been rash, yeah, but I felt like I needed to protect myself from making even more foolish decisions. It was clear I wouldn't be able to sleep that night. Not a chance. I went to the garage and started gathering all the suitcases she'd collected over the years. Suitcases, bags. I picked out a large black suitcase and a duffel bag for her clothes and set them aside. The rest of the luggage, the empty ones, I took upstairs to the bedroom closet. Then I started sifting through her actual closet, pulling out clothes. I wasn't gentle. I just quickly stuffed items into the large bag. I repeated the process several times until the bag was full. Then I turned my attention to her dresser. It felt like ages since I'd seen her underwear tucked away in there. For a fleeting, bizarre moment, the idea of just grabbing some hot dogs and cooking them outside crossed my mind. Anything but deal with this. I was supposed to take her stuff to her mother's house, Martha's, but I didn't really want to deal with her parents. Not yet. Not like this. So, instead of waiting for Mia to show up, I just took matters into my own hands. I impulsively went to the hardware store, bought some new locks, came back home. When I got back, I realized I couldn't just leave that pile of her stuff sitting in the front room. Following my initial thought process, I loaded everything, the packed suitcase, the duffel bag, into the car and headed for Martha's house. I drove carefully this time. When I got there, I unloaded everything near the garage door. I didn't want to put extra work on Robert, especially since his wife and daughter sure wouldn't help him with it, as the third box, was it a box or just a pile, fell to the ground near the garage. The front door opened. Martha, my mother-in-law. She looked surprised to see me. "Well, Mark, what brings you here? What's all this?" she asked, her eyes widening at the sight of the luggage. "What's going on?" "Well, when Mia arrives," I explained, trying to keep my voice even, "she might need her clothes. Initially, I thought she'd bring them herself, but I couldn't wait any longer. They were cluttering up the front room." She looked confused, her face pale. "What do you mean, when Mia arrives? I thought she wasn't in town yet. Why would her things be here?" "Martha," I said, sighing inwardly, "I'm not entirely sure how. She plans to sort things out, but I assumed she might be staying with you temporarily. She may be considering moving in with the person she's been spending time with, but I can't say for sure. That's why I brought her stuff." Her face grew even paler, her eyes narrowing. "What are you implying, Mark Johnson? How dare you accuse my daughter of such things? She had to stay there for work. She would never cheat on you." Her voice trembled, nearing hysteria. "I even saw them together last night, Martha," I continued, ignoring her rising anger. "They looked happy. They were joyfully celebrating their 2-month anniversary at a lively nightclub near their hotel." "Yeah, I stuck with 2 months just to mess with her head a little." "You're lying," she shrieked. "How can you say such things?" "About your wife, whom you've been with for 11 years. She's told me everything. She's deeply troubled by it all." "I'll never refer to that woman as my wife again, Martha," I said, my voice cold. "You might feel obligated to support her because she's your daughter, but I have no such obligations. I witnessed everything firsthand. And for the past 2 months, actually probably closer to 3, I've been living alone while she's been living with him since he joined this company. It's astonishing to see how she's changed, given the upbringing you provided. She looked me in the eye for months straight. lying to me every single day without a hint of remorse. I took a step closer, my anger simmering beneath the surface. If you think I'll allow her back into my home after this, then you're even more foolish than she is. However, it's your choice what to believe, and that's your issue. Personally, I've chosen to cut my losses. It's clear that she has strong feelings for this guy, James, and he's free to have her. She won't need to hide their relationship anymore. I pointed at the pile of luggage. As soon as she's done with her little charades, I'll direct her to this place. You can see for yourself who's being dishonest. Here, I placed the travel bag on top of the suitcase. If she picks up, be sure to convey the message exactly as you want, including the fact that I'm eager to see how she handles this. With those words, I got into my car and drove away, leaving Martha standing there, stunned, surrounded by her daughter's belongings. I felt restless. I wandered aimlessly around the house for several hours, couldn't sit still, couldn't think straight. Eventually, I found myself in the garage. It was a bit of a mess, but I found a small corner and started clearing it, setting up an improvised workspace. Just something to do with my hands, I guess. Suddenly, my thoughts were interrupted by the sound of the doorbell. My heart jumped. Curiosity got the better of me. I went to the door and opened it carefully, just a crack without saying a word. When I saw it was her, I instinctively took a step back. Mia entered the room. She looked around, taking in the mess, the half-finished project I'd started. "Oh, you must have been in the garage," she remarked, closing the door behind her quietly. "I tried knocking, but you didn't hear me." "Yeah, just tidying up," I responded, gesturing vaguely at the scattered tools and wood scraps. Mia sighed. "Well, Mom already called me," she said, her voice low. "It looks like you've already made up your mind about what to do with me." She looked at me, her face a mix of sadness and something that might have been disappointment, but felt more like annoyance. "What did you expect, Mia?" I asked, my voice flat. "That I wouldn't mind you having an affair? That I'd just shrug it off?" She paused before responding. I guess I wasn't thinking clearly, at least not rationally. "Overwhelmed by disappointment, huh?" I said, the sarcasm returning. "It's a shame, because all I did was think," I confessed, the words just tumbling out. "You see, there was no one around to distract me from my thoughts. No one to talk to share things with. I missed having someone to go out to dinner with, to visit a club with, and enjoy the darkness, whispering and kissing." The words hung in the air, loaded with unspoken pain. But I was left with a woman who could deceive me without hesitation, even looking me straight in the eye. She could share my house, my food, my life, and then be close with someone else. Not a pleasant image, right? She flinched slightly. Are you really ready to let go of 11 years of our life together?" she asked. "What is it, Mia?" I retorted. "Did you even bother to ask me about it? Would it have bothered you if I had a real relationship with someone else instead of just playing games?" The question hung in the air. I thought that such an important question would stay with me forever, you know. But it doesn't seem to matter anymore, does it? Now you and the person whose name I can't even remember can move on freely without caring about me. No more struggles over deciding whom to spend our anniversary with, I said, heading for a chair and sinking into it. "I think I understand your perspective," Mia replied softly. "Do you truly understand, Mia?" I challenged, looking her in the eye. "Because I genuinely doubt that you do. You see, for you it was just an act of infidelity. You probably found a way to justify it, maybe even shifting the blame onto me. Could it have been, Mia? Perhaps my actions drove you to be involved with someone else?" I inquired, my voice quiet but intense. She lowered her head. "No," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't blame you for this, it just happened." "Just happened," I scoffed. "Having an affair with someone other than a spouse for 2-3 months isn't an accident, Mia. It takes effort, planning. And moreover, secrecy. To continue the affair requires additional effort. And let me tell you, honey, you were playing the role well. My voice cracked slightly. I fell in love completely and unconditionally. It's unbelievable that you both managed to find time for your game. I can't even imagine how it feels to laugh about cheating on me. And that tearful phone call last night? It was a real performance. Maybe you should consider a new career, Mia. Your performance could easily outshine the last 3 Oscar winners. I must admit, a brief, uncontrollable burst of laughter escaped me then. Just a quick, unintended sound before I stifled it. I don't know where it came from. The absurdity of it all, maybe. It's clear that you don't love me, I said, the laughter gone, replaced by a hollow ache. If that's how you treat someone you love. Please spare me your anger, Mark, she protested, indignant. How can you believe that I don't love you after 11 years? Listen, Mia, I said, leaning forward. Since you seem to enjoy asking questions, here's one for you. Given your deep introspection, you know how you usually react to various situations. Based on this, imagine that I found out you had a close relationship with another man, but it was a one-time occurrence, not a long-term affair. How do you think I would react? She leaned forward too, speaking in a soft tone. To be honest, I think I would have asked you to leave our house and started divorce proceedings. Thank you for your honesty, I said, a bitter smile touching my lips. I admit that I had expected such a reaction. I even imagined you might throw something at me. Perhaps, she responded faintly. And now, I continued, pressing the point, imagine that for nearly 3 months every day we spent together meant nothing to me. It was all just an act, a facade to deceive you into thinking our relationship was thriving. In reality, I was just going through the motions while my heart belonged to someone else, spending entire days with my mistress after leaving you. I looked her dead in the eye. Can you honestly believe that I love you after nearly 13 years? The numbers didn't quite add up in my head, but the feeling was right. Show me some confidence, Mia, I said seriously. It's as if you're implying that you don't care about this situation. The time we spent together was very valuable to me, she said, her voice pleading slightly. It wasn't just casual conversation. I genuinely enjoyed being with you. Do you recall the last time we were close, Mia? I asked, my voice quiet. When was the last time you initiated one of our affectionate kisses? When did you last act like my wife, Mia? After what I've witnessed and heard, I find it hard to believe you're standing here telling me you love me. I'm not naive. I overheard you discussing him with that gossip Carol as soon as he arrived at the office. And then, to top it off, you both came up with the idea of giving her a gift for bringing you two together? It seems like you've already found your next bridesmaid. All that's left is to find his best man and the wedding banquet will be ready, I commented, leaning back in my chair, the sarcasm thick. So it turns out you're just like me after all, she said, almost a question. Should I expect a process server to show up at my doorstep? What is it, Mia? I asked again, cutting her off. First and foremost, I need to know where you're going to live, and no, you won't find a process server waiting on your doorstep to deliver the divorce papers. I've reserved that privilege for myself. That's it. The case is closed. Escape from Mark and move forward. If you happen to see me with someone else, please don't try to intervene, I stated firmly. What are you trying to prove with this? Mia asked, looking confused and hurt. I probably didn't think I needed to prove anything to you, I replied. What I did for myself, not for you. Why would I fight for a man like you? My voice was cold. Those who respected me so little thought that I would tolerate or make excuses for the way you treated me. When I gave you the ring, it was a clear sign that you were done. I stood up. I don't want to invest my energy in something that no longer matters to either of us. I can't forget or forgive, and based on your past and present behavior, it's evident that I'm not a priority for you. So it's time for me to leave you, Mia, and move on. I looked around the garage. I don't pretend to understand how you expected everything to end, but you certainly ruined everything. Now it's your turn to sleep at his place. I locked eyes with her. You're kicking me out and keeping everything for yourself? She asked, sounding indignant. To be honest, it seems unfair after 11 years. It always comes down to a deal, doesn't it? I said, a humorless smile on my face. Well, that's settled. If you need a house, you'll have to pay for it. As for me, I want to keep the house. I've fallen in love with him. With the extra space, I can finally transform it into what I truly desire. I assumed you and Bastard already found a place. His name is James, she corrected, a faint attempt at asserting something. Couldn't care less about that, really, I retorted. Do you think he has nowhere to live? I asked her. Well, of course he does, she responded, looking confused. In that case, problem solved, I remarked dryly. I was waiting for your answer, and then it occurred to me. So, I guess you don't think his wife will agree to this arrangement, I said, noticing her expression falter. Wait, did you find out everything about him? She asked, her voice serious, laced with panic. How did you know he was married? Seriously, Mia, this isn't a joke, I said, shaking my head. You really think I'm naive, don't you? Why else would you be here, Mia? I walked towards the garage door. So, what's the deal? He doesn't want to divorce his wife for you? I looked back at her. I hope you haven't seriously considered coming back to me. I had contemplated this particular question myself. I considered the possibility that our relationship had lasted 11 years meant something unbreakable. However, upon reflection, I concluded that we are done. This decision wasn't mine, not originally. It was made by you. Let's reminisce about those incredible 2 months you spent together and hope for even more in the future. I paused. Keep in mind, as I mentioned before, when I gave you the ring, it signified the end. Please refrain from making excuses about our 11-year history. Those years didn't matter to you in the past, and they don't matter to me now. Therefore, I'll compensate for those 11 years with a set of legal documents as soon as they're prepared. I gestured around the garage, the house beyond. The house offer remains unchanged. If you don't want to leave the house, you can come back and take whatever you want. I looked at her. It appears you're ready to move on without any hesitation. Divorce me and go on your way. I softened my voice slightly, but the words were like ice. You may be trying to elicit my sympathy, but I want to make it clear that I'm moving on from someone I can't trust, living under the same roof with me. I will never trust you again. So what's your plan? Do you want to keep the house for yourself? I asked again. No, she replied quickly. I have no desire to keep this house. Give me a few days to find a new place, and I'll likely take a significant portion of the furniture. She reached into her pocket. What should I do with this? She asked, handing me the ring. I took the ring. It felt heavy, cold. Do whatever you want with it, I said, shrugging. Then an idea, a cruel little idea, popped into my head. Oh, I have an idea. Why not use it as a toe ring? It would fit perfectly on your big toe, given how you treated him. I might actually find some use for it then. Her face hardened. Okay, you know what? I could use some extra money. Maybe I'll pawn it, she said, almost a threat. Well, you won't get much for it, I stated, examining the ring dismissively. They buy these things by weight, and most likely, you won't even get $250. You can't buy a genuine gold ring for your finger for $250, but that's just my opinion. It's your ring, so do as you please with it. I turned towards the door, ready for her to leave. Did you get all my stuff out of the closet? She asked hesitantly. Yes, I got everything, I replied, though I have to admit I didn't pack your things very neatly. I hope you still have clean, unwrinkled clothes after the trip, I commented. Deliberately. May I take a look? She inquired. Of course, don't be shy. You know where everything is, I said, noticing a slight frown on her face. I waited patiently as she went upstairs to inspect the room. I could hear her rummaging in the bedroom, then in the closet, and finally in the bathroom. A few minutes. Later, she returned downstairs, carrying a floral zip-up bag filled with cosmetics. You were thorough, she said, forcing a smile. You only missed a few things. I may have to call you when it's time to move. Of course, I'd be happy to help, I replied, smiling affably, the picture of polite indifference. As long as it's not too close to me. I walked to the garage door and opened it for her. As she stood there, she suggested, maybe we could go for a walk. I paused for a moment, considering her request, and then the cruel idea from before resurfaced. Wouldn't it be too much to ask? You to run around instead? I inquired, maintaining a serious expression. Kiss me on the spot? She replied, completely misinterpreting my meaning, turning to leave. I wouldn't dare kiss someone who knows where she's been, I retorted, my voice sharp. I closed the door behind her. That marked the end of our communication. 3 months later, my lawyer called. He had diligently filed all the necessary divorce documents and instructed me to pick them up from his office on Monday. My itinerary for the day was set. First, the lawyer's office, and then Martha and Robert's house. The sole objective was to get Mia's signature on the documents, ensuring she had no false hopes of reconciliation. This needed to be over. After parking my car at her parents' house, I paused for a moment, gazing at the familiar facade, contemplating the completion of this final painful task. It might take some time, a long time maybe, but eventually I would find solace and quiet nights again. This chapter finally would be closed. Exiting the car, I made my way to the front door and rang the doorbell. To my surprise, Martha answered. Well, Mark, what brings you here? What's going on? She asked, her tone guarded, but without the outright hostility from the last time. I suppose Robert must have talked to her. Not forgotten about you just yet, I replied simply. Is Mia here? I inquired. Yes, she's here. Come on in, she replied, closing the door behind me. A few moments later, Mia entered the room. She looked different, gaunt, tired. Mia, I'm here for you to sign these papers, I explained, getting straight to the point. I'll file them tomorrow, and then our divorce will be finalized. I just want it to be over. Mia sighed, a deep, weary sound. I don't think I've ever been good enough for you, have I? She said, not looking at me. Do you seriously think I'll just stand by and watch your actions over the past few months, Mia? I asked, feeling a surge of the old hurt, but also a new weariness. She briefly left the room, but soon returned with a pen in her hand. As she hastily signed her name on the appropriate pages, I watched her movements carefully. When she finished, she placed the pen forcefully on the table and swiftly gathered everything into a manila envelope, ready for archiving, I guess. Free, now, she said, looking up. Her eyes were empty. Thank you for signing these, I said, taking the envelope. Take care of yourself, Mia. Find happiness. Shifting her focus from me to her mother, who had entered the room silently, she added, Mom, you can come into the room now. Congratulations to you as well, I replied, my voice flat, before turning and walking out the door. As I drove away, a wave of mixed emotions washed over me. Relief, sadness, bitterness, and a strange sense of numbness. I understood that this marked the definitive end of our relationship, the life we had built. And I couldn't shake the feeling that life was about to take a completely new, unfamiliar turn. This chapter was finally irrevocably closed. Just a month later, the divorce was finalized, signaling the start of a completely different life for both of us. In due course, I received unexpected news. It came from Robert, Kate's father. He called me, sounding hesitant, but felt I should know. He informed me that after our divorce, Mia had gone to James and asked him to leave his wife and marry her. However, James made it clear to Mia that he couldn't and wouldn't do that. He admitted to her that their relationship, well, it had no romantic feelings for her. It seemed that after such a devastating revelation, Mia had to come to terms with the fact that she would have to continue her life without me, and now without Paul, James. According to Robert, Mia now resides with her parents. She's in search of a new job, having been, shall we say, disgracefully dismissed from her previous one. Just like Paul, James, thanks to me. Robert told me Kate is deeply unhappy. She's had several encounters since then, but they involved either married, men seeking only brief affairs, or men with questionable reputations engaging in indiscriminate close relationships. Robert confided that these indiscriminate close relationships led Mia to contract a psychiatric illness, and she's now in therapy. That's the story, buddy. All of it. From the beginning to the bitter end. It's a mess, right? An absolute mess. Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to follow the channel for more deep and meaningful stories.